The truth of the matter is, once you die, you are dead.
Okay.
Unless, because there's a presupposition here, that if there is a creator who created everything and has the ability to create life, then that ability is also there, that when death is decreed, that very creator can have the ability to bring that back to life.
Okay.
It is automatically assumed that if there is a creator who created everything, then that creator can bring somebody back to life without an issue.
No, it is not automatically assumed that the creator can resurrect life. We can only assume that if you can demonstrate that the creator has the attribute of omnipotence.
But ultimately, when I die and I go into that ground, I am on my own. Now, one of the things that I know that logic tells me to address is that if there was a dead body here and I am next to it, what's the difference?
To help answer this, let's look at the 7 criteria to determine if an organism is alive. At the point of death, homeostasis stops, decomposition begins, and the remains of the organism enters the biogeochemical cycle, moving from biotic to abiotic.
Because if it is to do with the matter of the beings, we both possess them. If it's to do with the atoms or the molecules or the particles, we both possess them. So what is making me what we would consider to be alive, and what is making them what we would consider to be dead?
Yeah.
The exact point of death is a grey area. It can be most accurately defined as the point where an organism loses the ability to regulate its internal environment, causing a gradual decline in cell function which becomes irreversible.
What is it? It seems like there seems to be, for me, like I said, there seems to be an external agency that seems to permeate the whole of the body, and when that external agency goes, the body is but matter like everything else.
He is starting to argue for the existence of a soul. Let's see if he provides any evidence for this external agency.
Yeah, sounds like a problem of consciousness.
Well, consciousness, actually, if you look at the way it's addressed, I respectfully take a different view. You see, the definition of consciousness, no matter what it is going to have to be attuned with the rest of the body and the brain.
Okay.
But the body and the brain are made up of matter.
Right.
Is consciousness made of matter?
I've no idea. I've never explored it, but I would say probably
Right.
not.
Probably not. But now, if it isn't, and it is not associated, then it seems like as though it is external.
Or more likely, consciousness is an emergent property of brain matter and function rather than an external agency. For a more detailed explanation, please watch my videos on consciousness.
You see, I've got this, the pen. I usually use this example to try and understand what we are discussing. I can only feel the pen if I'm external to the pen. Are you following?
Yeah.
If I was the pen, would I be able to feel the pen?
If the pen, no, you wouldn't.
If I pinch myself, how am I doing it? Is it to do only with the senses? Thank you.
Sorry, repeat the question. If you pinch yourself.
If I pinch myself, will I feel it?
Yes.
Is it only the pain receptors that are sending a message to the brain, or is there something else that is telling the brain that is pain?
I would say no, that's sensory input.
It is sensory input, isn't it? But that sensory input is going somewhere.
To the brain.
What is above the brain? Should we call it consciousness?
I don't know if you can say consciousness is above the brain. And to me, consciousness is more of an internal thing. Like, I can't know you, right? Like, I can only know myself.
Correct.
Because my consciousness, like, I can feel the air when it makes contact with my body, because my consciousness is within my body. Okay,
Yeah.
It's confined by my body.
Yes.
Right? So I can't ever know you. I can only ever know myself.
Agreed. But the issue is not that. The issue is, if there's a dead body and I'm here, everything between that body and me is the same.
It may appear the same, but on the much smaller scale, the dead body cells have lost the ability to regulate their internal environment. Shabir is trying to imply that the soul has left the body and that this is the only difference between the living and the dead. He needs to provide evidence that such a thing exists.
The word science merely means knowledge.
Yeah.
The only problem is that in the past 30, 40, 50 odd years, it has taken on a life of its own. In other words, unless it fits within what we call science, it is dispensed with as an idea. But the emphasis now is this, that if I were to present a paper and it is not scientific, it would be rejected.
If it follows the scientific method and is relevant to the journal in question, then it would be accepted. If it's not a science topic, you could submit it to a non-science journal, but science journals are only for science.
So if I were to say, okay, you know what, the idea of a soul is scientific, what would the response be?
Well, nobody's done any research.
Exactly. And so you can't write a paper to peer review it.
Or more precisely, there is currently no way of testing for a soul, so it cannot be included in science. Once there is a reliable method of testing for the soul, it can be subjected to the scientific method.
Right. You can't do that. But the problem is that, look, if a body of knowledge has been excluded by virtue of the fact that it isn't considered to be scientific, then who is losing out?
Nobody has to be losing out. There are realms outside of science, such as the humanities. This is where all ideas not subject to the scientific method can reside.
What I am saying is that if there is a body of knowledge, yeah, as an example, plant-based medicinal healing, it's not scientific, is it?
When subjected to the scientific method, some medicinal plants have shown an effect that can be reliably observed and translated to modern medicine.
Basically, you have got holistic practitioners,
Right.
yeah? They are considered to be quacks, yeah? Because this particular kind, not all, some has, yeah, in all fairness, but this particular kind of knowledge is not considered to have gone through the rigorous scientific process.
Okay.
We are losing out on knowledge because we have predetermined whether that knowledge is going to be useful or not.
Right.
It is not predetermined whether it is useful or not. Pseudosciences such as homeopathy can be tested scientifically to see if there is an effect, even if the proposed mechanism has no scientific basis. All tests of homeopathy have shown it to be a pseudoscience, though some people find benefit from it, particularly those associated with a New Age movement who achieve a placebo effect from alternative medicine.
But if you are not going to be given the opportunity to even test it, what do?
You can try and come up with your own method of testing it if you believe in it that much. If you can't devise a test for your ideas, then you should consider whether your ideas are scientific or not.
Medicine is
You're
based...
familiar with homeopathy?
Yeah. So, from what I understand, modern medicine is based off of chemistry, right? So, a lot of the medicines we use are, as you say, not plant-based.
Well, quite a few extracts of plants are used in the medicine.
Exactly, yeah, but some, like I don't know if I'm using. I can't use examples because I don't know, what chemicals come from which plants.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, we just take plant-based versus pill-based.
Yes.
Chances are a pill that's been manufactured, those chemicals have been sort of boiled down and distilled within a lab.
Yes.
Completely abstract from like salt you can mine out of the ground. That was never part of the plant. If you use salt in a certain pill and that's used to cure a cold, help alleviate the symptoms of cold, you can, it's easy to test.
True. Yeah.
But we have so many plants in the world. We don't know what chemicals are necessarily in them. We don't know how those chemicals interact with the biology of people.
Yeah.
So it's a question of chemistry, biochemistry.
Absolutely. But here is the amazing thing, that when we are talking about information that we are discussing here, okay, it is a given that any knowledge that we possess had started its journey thousands of years ago, where every human being, as he developed, as he understood, we came to know about X, Y, and Z. What I am saying is that there's nothing wrong with that, okay? However, the fact that it has now been reduced to a particular set criteria is excluding vital information and knowledge, which, as a matter of course, ought to be included. But because we have got a very narrow view of how knowledge ought to be established.
Why is it narrow?
I'll tell you.
Why it's narrow.
I'll tell you. Yeah? If there is if there's X, yeah, we are trying to find out about, yeah, and we apply the scientific method to it, and it doesn't fall within the purview of the scientific method, what would happen?
How does it? I don't even understand how it would fall outside of the purview.
Okay,
because everything can be tested.
Right. Okay. How can you test the soul?
What?
The soul, S-O-U-L.
Soul.
If it is something that cannot be directly tested, do you dismiss it as knowledge?
It is not dismissed as a concept, but it does not become part of science until it's testable.
That's the point I'm making.
Right.
But now, here is the problem. If we know of something, but it cannot be tested, do you dismiss it because it cannot be tested?
I just don't understand how something cannot be tested in the first place. Like, if people in the past have had an idea about soul,
Yeah.
we take that, we just call it a hypothesis,
Yes.
and we test that hypothesis.
Okay.
If it's so, how do I even say this? If it's so abstract or so far away that
Yeah.
we can't even say, oh, this is a hypothesis to be explored, because in science, right, you have a hypothesis, but you also have a null hypothesis.
Yes.
So if I were to say trees have an impact on the environment, for instance,
Yes.
the null hypothesis would be trees have zero impact on the environment.
Yeah.
And you would test that
Yes.
by testing trees against the environment.
Yes.
If you can't take something that you believe is knowledge and discern even a null hypothesis about it, then it can't, then as you say, it can't be tested.
Uh-huh.
And to me, I just don't even understand what
I see what you
there
mean.
is
I
that
see
you
what
can't
you mean.
put in terms
Okay.
of a null hypothesis.
Okay, Jen. Let's put it this way. Earlier on we talked about consciousness. What is it?
I would describe it as some sort of actualization of matter.
How do we test it?
There are ways for testing for consciousness. This article demonstrates neural, behavioural and creative correlates to consciousness. I will link this article in the description. There is also the Glasgow Coma Scale, which is used in a medical setting.
Is that there is a lot of information, a lot of knowledge out there,
Yeah.
which is yet to be touched on.
Yeah.
But what we should do is make a decision based on the information that we have.
Okay.
That's what we usually do. But it shouldn't stop us from increasing the knowledge so that we can arrive at a certainty.
Okay.
So in summary, Shabir is trying to say that there is valuable knowledge outside of science, which is held outside because of the scientific method. In a way, I agree, but the value of that knowledge is questionable depending on our individual differences. James did well in arguing against Shabir as to why something like the soul is outside of science. Thank you for watching, and please let me know what you think in the comments section.